do. He'll be doing 9 laps by the end of this.
Yeah, and as I say, the SP7s can comfortably do 9 laps, maybe 9.5. They can't do 10, or certainly not in my experience.
Well, he will have done 10, including the formation lap.
Yes,
he's on his 9th lap at the moment, so he will have done 10.
Yes, I meant 9 racing laps,
yes,
if you like. But yes, you're right, because they have to do the green flag lap. It's at a reduced pace, but it's still reasonably quick. So this is great fuel economy, and I don't think the car is being driven in order to save fuel. It's being driven very, very quickly indeed, because there is a class to be won there in SP7. But these guys that run the Porsche 911 GT America Gigaspeed team would dearly like an overall victory if it were possible. The 30 car, which is the other Fricadelli Porsche, first time we've had an opportunity to speak about this, is now in for its stop. So that car has done 8 laps, pitting from 4th position. Behind the 100, well, behind the 62 now, behind the 100 and behind the number 3 BMW.
And that was Klaus Abelen at the wheel of the car.
It's both the Fricadelli Porsches 31 and 30, with plenty of mentions of Abelen on, well, the BBS wheels, but also along the body side as well. And the 30 car is now released back into the fast lane. It's immediately accompanied by a flood of people from the garages, now knowing it's safe to cross the pit lane. The 911 and the 55 still more or less attached. So despite the hard work from Romain Dumas to shake this RS01, can't do it yet. One thing we know about Romain Dumas, though, is that he won't be distracted by the Renault, and will just be able to focus on the road in front without it affecting his braking point or his racing line. Although the pilot of the 55, that won't stop the driver, who is either Dieter Schrittmann or Heiko Hammel, from trying to force a mistake, at least, from the Frenchman. Down the hill they go towards Breitscheid once again.
Heinz Abelen
yes.
opened his first butcher's shop in 1958.
Did he really?
Yes.
Okay, so then, big year for next year then.
Yes.
As far as the business is concerned. Right.
Since then has become one of the leading purveyors of convenience meats in Germany.
Excellent. I'm a big fan of convenience meats, particularly when in Germany and in this part of the world. So the Abelen car, the Abelen sponsored car, is now back into the race, and the 31 machine, Norbert Siedler, has been at the wheel of that. It's either him or Frank Stippler now driving the 31, and it's fair to say that the 31 has a stronger chance of winning this race than the 30, which is... Now, is that the Pro-Am car? Yes, it is. So Klaus Abelen, Sabine Schmitz and Andreas Ziegler represent a Pro-Am driver combination in SP9, and the 31 car is a pure Pro car. There are some cars on the entry list that don't have any letters after their number. But Klaus Bachler and Robert Renauer strikes me as being an all-Pro car. I'm not sure about the 35. That's probably Pro-Am, although it's not listed as such on the entry list. Car 62 shortly will be nearing the end then of lap 9. That's 9 racing laps. I'm sure the 62 will come down pit lane at the end of this one then, and that will put it back on an even keel as far as pit stops are concerned. Although 588 is intriguing, because that car's not stopped either.
Yes, 588 is also intriguing because it started in the second start group.
Right.
Because they only start the clock for the second start group when the second start group comes across the line, when it comes through, it only at that point triggers its time, so it kind of leaps up the timing screens at the point when it comes through at the completion of a lap, because its elapsed time is 2 minutes behind everybody else's elapsed time in that leading group. So the leading H4 class car is number 588.
Now, don't the timekeepers normally correct that within a handful of laps, or do we always
No,
find
that stays throughout the race, because what happens is for the people who start 2 minutes and 4 minutes behind in the second and third groups, their race is in effect a little bit shorter because it doesn't start at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock as everybody else's race does. It starts at 2 minutes or 4 minutes past. So you can actually have a 4-hour race taking less than 4 hours for those class cars, depending on how it finishes, how the race pans out. I'll tell you what though, this the RS01 isn't losing any ground at all on the 911. I thought once the 911 car got past, it might disappear into the distance, but it certainly hasn't done.
I'd love to know for sure who's actually driving that. Do we assume it's Heiko Hamel now?
Yeah. Who's driving the Renault?
The Renault,
yes.
yeah.
No. Yes, we don't get any information on.
And is it just the two drivers?
Yes, it's only a two-driver car.
Fine. So it's one of those two, either Heiko Hamel or Dieter Schmidtmann. More pit stoppers and a damaged BMW 325i, an E90 variety. It's damaged on the rear right corner. This is car 476 from class V4. So for production spec cars between a certain engine capacity, and V4 is for, bear with me a second, no, I can't tell you that I'm afraid, just yet. It's for cars I think between something like 2.5 and 3 litres, but it's certainly for production spec cars. V5 is 2.5 to 3, so that will mean that V4 will be between 2 and 2.5, I reckon, 2 litres and 2.5 thousand cc. Car 3, just going by that stricken BMW 325, in fact.
And that is the new race leader, it's Steph Dusseldorp. I can tell you definitely now at the wheel of that car, because I've seen some pictures of Jürgen Müller in the pit lane. And so he does lead the race now, then the number 3 from the 100. So it's a BMW 1.2, and the 100, we can't tell you who's at the wheel of. I think it was Matthias Enkeler who will have started, and now either Michele Di Martino or Christian Krognizov. Not a betting man, but I would speculate that it's Michele Di Martino who's taken over to do the middle stint. And then I'll have Christian Krognizov in for the final stint. But as and when we get confirmation of that, we'll let you know. And a change there behind, because the Renault has just been overtaken by the number 31 Porsche from the Fricadelli team. So Norbert Ziedler, Frank Stippler getting past the Renault, having said how well the Renault was going on to the back of the 911 Porsche. Well, the Fricadelli car, as it came across the start-finish line at the completion of the 9th lap, takes over that place, which I think is going to turn into 4th and 5th places. So those two are battling over. Up the hill, turn left again, and then down into the Hatzenbach sequence of corners. First few corners really quick, very fast indeed. It's about flat out as you're accelerating up through the gears, and then as you get further through them, they tighten up on you, and you end up having to slow down a little bit more. Plus, you've got traffic to deal with as well there, as the Renault tries to follow the Fricadelli Porsche through, has no space in which to do it, and the Fricadelli Porsche also having to be very patient as well as it goes through the traffic. And of course, all of that is just allowing the 911 Porsche of Romain Dumas just to extend the lead a little bit more up the front of the field. So that is the 911 Porsche in 5th place now, the Fricadelli Porsche in 6th, and the number 55 Renault RS01 in 7th place as they complete their 9th lap. And as you said, suggested it would, Johnny, the 62 Porsche has come in now to make its pit stop.
We're about an hour on from the incident on the Hatzenbach, the start of the Hatzenbach at least, which involved the 100 BMW, the 55 Renault, the number 4 Porsche, and the 22 Ferrari. And very thankful to Alan Prosser, who is at Lanzarote Camel on Twitter, who's sent through, admittedly, Alan, you sent these through a little while ago, but only just checking up on them now. Some stills from the incident. And yes, I would agree with you that effectively the Porsche made contact with the BMW into the left-hander that takes the cars from the Grand Prix track to the Hatzenbach. So Porsche hit the rear of the Falkenhorst BMW. The Ferrari, trying to avoid the 55 Renault, then clattered the back of the Falcon Motorsports Porsche. And thanks to Alan for rewinding the tape, if you like, and sending me some stills. They're available on Twitter if you check at Lanzarote Camel's live feed. What else to tell you? Plenty of people very much enjoying this race so far. Bringing you live coverage then of VLN 4 here on the RSL network, radiolemans.com. IMSA Radio in full flow this weekend as well, our sister station from Canada and the Mosport venue. Back-to-back weekends for the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, with the 6 Hours of the Glen last weekend, and all of that is now available to listen again via the podcast uploading system. You can either listen to it live streaming or choose to download the podcast and then take it wherever you need to be. 2 hours and 37 minutes then to go for this fourth race of the year for VLN. And very entertaining up to this point, just because, well, first of all, we had the SP7 leader out front, and it's a question of how long that 62 car can go now into this stint.
But it is now in the pits.
It has pitted, yeah. But into this next stint,
oh, I see.
How much further can it go in, and can it lead the race again? And where will the checkered flag come out? Because unlike the 24 hours, when the checkered flag just comes straight out, BMW off there as well, I notice. And a stray car. This is towards the end of the lap. That the BMW I first spotted is on the link road that's used for the tourist laps, isn't it? So that's the Nordschleife proper.
Yes, I suspect that might have been involved in an incident at the entrance of the Hatzenbach and has been hoiked over the barrier.
That was one of the BMWs. Yes. I'm almost certain of it, yes.
That's the car that was off there. The onboard shots from the 62 Porsche 911 from the Gigaspeed team, now back on the circuit, having had its pit stop, and the car about which you were just speculating how whether it's going to do another 9 laps or potentially will it do 10, and whether it will be able to cycle through to the top of the lists again, I think is going to depend purely, Johnny, on its pace, because of course the further the race goes on, the more it the pace or the lack of pace that it have will drop it back and enable the SP9 cars to extend a lead over the top of it. Great view, certainly good quality pictures coming down there to Breitscheid over the Adenauer Bridge, and then up the hill again up towards Hohe Acht. The other thing I wanted just to mention, because it has now happened, is that we have a BMW 123, because in the lead of the race then is the Falcon Motorsports Steff Düsseldorf driven car, which leads in second place is the 100 Row Racing sponsored Falkenhorst Motorsport entered car, which we'll speculate has Michele Di Martino at the wheel of in second place. And then in third place now is the another Falkenhorst BMW, this in the proper Falkenhorst colours, with Henry Falkenhorst, one of the drivers of it. So a BMW 123. Then the best of the Porsches is fourth. Romain Dumas now probably at the wheel of that one. And then in fifth place is the number 55 Renault RS01, which has now lost touch a little bit, although it hasn't lost touch, has it? So what's happened there is that the Renault has got back past the Fricadelli Porsche, hasn't it? Because the Fricadelli car we saw going past the Renault, and now we could see the Renault there very clearly with no Fricadelli car up in front of it. So a change back there for fifth and sixth places in the race.
Okay, that's a good point you make about the M6s not exactly dominating this race, but in very good positions to try and come home with at least one podium for one of those cars. The 3 car, though, looking very strong at this time, leading by 11 seconds at the start of lap 10. I'm sure that time distance, though, has changed somewhat on this lap. You never can bet that it's going to be similar time differentials after a further 15 miles or so. And the 911 this time, having managed to shake the Renault, the 55 car, has now got the 31 Porsche right on its boot lid. So those cars are coming nose to tail then into Tiergarten.
Okay, so I'd misidentified that one, but you're right. Yes, the Fricadelli Porsche right on the tail of the Manthey car, and the pair of them now well ahead of the Renault RS01. In fact, when we had the onboard shots from the Renault a few minutes ago, I couldn't see the Fricadelli car, and I thought maybe the Renault had got back past the Fricadelli car, but it wasn't. It's just lost a lot of ground to these two very similar battling Porsches, one from Manthey and one from Fricadelli with the Motul sponsorship on the side.
So 9, and 31 going for a bit of a move up the inside there through the second part of the Mercedes arena, but Romain Dumas was wise to that, just ran slightly more deep into the left-hander, but this time the Fricadelli Porsche might have Dumas, although Dumas forcing 31 off onto the grass there, and despite that, no, going too deep now as the 31 car, so had track position for a brief spell, and then swooping back up the inside, the outside-inside trick there from the Frenchman Romain Dumas gets back ahead of the 31. Now, who's at the wheel of the 31, do we think? Because it's clearly someone not willing to wait.
It's either Frank Stippler or Norbert Ziedler. I'd go for Frank Stippler, probably. Nothing against Norbert Ziedler, but Stippler is perhaps a slightly more aggressive driver of the two. And I don't know, Johnny, but just looking at the way that Fricadelli car is going, it seems to have its advantage in some different places from the Manthey car. Maybe the Manthey car is suffering a misfire or something, but just occasionally the Fricadelli car seems to have sudden advantages, and a bit of an understeery moment there as they went onto the Hatzenbach from the 911 Porsche, and down they go now, and we know that that's Romain Dumas at the wheel of the 911, the Grello Manthey Porsche.
Where do we stand on tyres? Because will they have definitely changed Michelin tyres at Manthey?
I would have thought so, yes.
Yeah, because it's a new driver, and that tends to be the way that things go.
Because you have this pit stop time, you might as well put a new set of tyres on. There's nothing to be gained.
Save you any time, unlike in the World Endurance Championship, for example. Okay. Wondered whether, as you said, that squirrely type moment for Romain Dumas onto the Hatzenbach, whether the Michelin tyres were starting to cry enough, but you would think not if they've had brand new tyres put on this Porsche, and about to overtake the Peugeot RCZ. Yes, heading down out of Flugplatz towards Arenberg with now the Aston Martin GT8 has ground to a halt from class SP8. This is car 134, the Schubauer Hüttenrauch car. So that's the GT8 that was driven by Darren Turner and Nicky Team during the 24 hours.
It was third in its class, but grinding to a halt out there on the track, as you say, and so now it hadn't yet made a pit stop. So I just wonder, an hour and a half into the race, I just wonder whether that Aston has run out of fuel, because I couldn't see any damage on the car, Johnny, but one wonders whether perhaps that car did just run out of fuel.
Certainly a possibility. Might not be a bad shout, but you would think that they've done a significant amount of fuel mileage testing around here, and therefore know how much it takes to empty the tank.
David King knows how much it takes to empty the tank, because he ran out of fuel 2 years ago, I think it was, during the Nürburgring 24 hours with the GT, what's that, GT12 and GT8, can't remember now, but so one of the GT cars. So continuing to ride the roller coaster down towards Breitscheid through Verseifen, and now down towards the Breitscheid, steep downhill, and the 911 Porsche slicing its way through the traffic. Remember, just behind him he's got the Fricadelli Porsche as well, so no time for Romain to be too cautious here, but equally he does need to make sure that he threads the slender track through the slower traffic there as he heads up towards Hohe Acht now.
The three drivers, by the way, at the wheel of the Aston Martin Vantage. I got through two of them before the caption disappeared, so apologies to Christian Gebhardt, who makes up the trio for this weekend. So Wolfgang Schubauer, Matthias Hüttenrauch and Christian Gebhardt are the three drivers assigned to Aston Martin Vantage GT8 action this weekend. Hopefully that car can be recovered somehow, and it doesn't mean that it's race over, but with only now 2.5 hours to go, tricky for it to get back into contention with so much time being lost. The 911 Porsche just heading up towards Carousel. Sorry, Paul.
Yes, yes, I misidentified it when I was saying it's going towards Hoa. It's going towards Exmüller. Now it's up at the Carousel, and we had the curious situation where the car was seemingly grinding to a halt, but it was really the breakup on the pictures. Dumas is now coming out of the Carousel, and having come out of the Carousel is now going up to Hoa. The circuit just opens out a little bit more, and all of a sudden, from being in amongst the trees, you suddenly get a little area which isn't amongst the trees, and then having completed that part of the circuit, you then head down in towards the Wippermann, and the very fast corners here, which just seem to sweep right, left, all the way down, and very often you're very short of vision as to what's coming up next, and you have to just trust your memory that the track is how it was on the previous occasion. Then you go, pardon me, then you come down into the highly populated with spectators area of Brünchen, down that little run, and then uphill again up towards Pflanzgarten, and then there's a big jump as you hit the braking area for Pflanzgarten. Not quite just yet. Here he comes now over the top, and then he'll come down. Very awkward actually, coming up behind a slower car, hitting a bit of a curve. Then he's over the bump, and then having to immediately clip the curve twice on the right-hand side as he gets towards Pflanzgarten, and then out of Pflanzgarten, heading now towards the Stefan Beloff S, and up towards the Kleiner Carousel at Schwalbenschwanz, and mercifully for the moment clear of traffic, but would be able to get past traffic a little bit easier here than he did as he was approaching Pflanzgarten a few moments ago.
Yeah, one of those cars he needed to deal with was the second of the Mercedes-Benz in this race. There are only two. One is in SP9, the AMG GT3, so the latest spec GT3 car. The other is a tiny little motor, the Mercedes-Benz SLK 350, car 404, which is in the V6 class, so it's definitely a production spec car, up slightly to make it more suitable for racing. And Eugen Singh and Bertin Singh, the Heidenheim-based drivers, back with their smart-looking SLK, which John Hindhoff and I spotted during the previous race. It was also our first sight on the live stream of another one of the cars. Oh, it was the Calibra that I spotted, that's right. Just one Calibra in this race. 621 from class H2 is the Opel Calibra TJR. Again, not anything close to the sort of DTM Calibras that used to be raced in Germany and I think on the Nordschleife. Maybe not, yeah, no, they would have been. Together with Mercedes and Alfa Romeo 155 in that sort of era. But that's much more of a kind of Group N type machine in the V class, the Opel Calibra. Nose to tail still between the Porsches. 911 up against 31, so a lap further on, and they're still just as close as they were the last time we reported on them. The Cayman's not very far from each other either in the Cup 3 division. So car 960 and 979 that was so close in practice are still shadowing each other's moves, and 960 is 27th overall, leading Cup 3 from the 979 car, 28th overall, and second in Cup 3. And last time at the line they were separated by, well, just a handful, not even a second actually, and lapping very similar times. In fact, the best lap time from car 960, an 8:53.4. The best time from the other car, 979, an 8:53.6. So supreme pace and competition being offered from the Cup 3 division. It would be nice if perhaps a third and a fourth Cayman could get involved with that, but that might be a little bit too much to ask for this race, as 9.79 heads into the Michael Schumacher S at the start of its 10th lap.
And just going back to the Aston Martin, which ground to a halt, was the Wolfgang Schumacher car, Schumacher, wasn't it? 134 car, was just short of completing its lap. So it was right at the end of the lap. So not proof, blood, but certainly a bit of circumstantial evidence that perhaps that car had run out of fuel, because it was just before the end of the lap, around the Tiergarten, just past the Tiergarten chicane. Leaders, meanwhile, now 11 laps completed and 22 seconds separating the number 3 BMW Johnny from the number 100 BMW, still a BMW 123. And yeah, I mean, you said earlier on the way that the Falcon car is going, not necessarily dominating. 22 seconds after over an hour and a half of racing isn't that much, but certainly it's a good lead that Stef Dusseldorp has at the moment in this race.
The car in third position in Cup 3 that we don't mention an awful lot about because it's just a bit distant from 979 and 960, but the 941 car displaying a really nice paint job, and it is in third position ahead of a very competitive rest of the class. Looks like that car clearly in third position now, in no danger of being caught immediately. And Cup 3 contains how many cars? 7. And as I say, 960 and 979 are the main guys that are likely to get on the podium and potentially win it. But 941, the Gigaspeed team, GetSpeed performance car of, in inverted commas, Max, Jens and Daniel Mersch, and that is Daniel's real name, whereas his fellow co-pilots race under pseudonyms, simply Max and simply Jens, but they are driving very cleanly and have their car in third position. 978 looks to be another car in Cup 3. Yes, that car is 5th in the division. And then 463 is another Cayman. Doesn't automatically mean that it's in the same class. Car 463 is... my means of looking cars up seems to have gone out the window momentarily because of a computer glitch or possibly operator error. So 463 is certainly a Cayman, and just being overtaken there by, or overtaking one of the BMWs in the slightly slower classes. These Caymans do look very, very smart though, and most of them are the Club Sport variety with the letters MR at the end as well. MR standing for Manthey Racing, and 463 is actually a V5 car, beg your pardon, 13th in class V5.
Being driven by Albert Egbert, Felix Horn and Mike Renefart. Or at least Mike, at least, very close resident to the Nürburgring, coming from Neuenahr Ahrweiler. Felix Horn a little further afield.
978 being the 5th placed car in Cup 3 as well. SP10 we haven't mentioned a great deal about, which is the GT4 part of the race effectively. That's currently led by car 188. And I can tell you, beat me to it. Avia Racing, the team Matol Racing, Aston Martin V8. So that's the GT4 version of the Vantage, not the same as the GT8 we talked about. That car leading SP10 then. Second position in SP10 is car 171, which is the Black Falcon Team TMD friction Porsche Cayman GT4, but the drama continues for the Aston Martin that was running in 3rd position in SP8, and that car's being fueled, isn't it, at the very end of the pit lane, which again would add further evidence that it had run out of fuel, Paul. And they've managed somehow to get it, presumably by the means of a tow rope, to the end of the pit lane, and within range the team can then sort out the issue. And they've got a jerry can on the go.
Yes, refuelling allowed in the pit lane and nowhere else, but outside assistance is allowed in VLN racing, so the car can be brought back, as you suggest, on the back of a tow rope. And as I mentioned, it hadn't actually stopped very far away from the start-finish line or pit lane entrance, so it wasn't that far to tow it. But of course, time would have been lost through all of that, and that would have scuppered the chances of that car finishing any higher up. It was 3rd in its class, but I think it will have fallen back as a result of that.
So difficult to judge. I bet there is a bit of fuel left in the tank, but if the fuel pump can't get to it, and it's a fair bit of sloshing around that is done around this circuit as well, with its tight, twisty nature. And if the fuel's just in slightly the wrong place in the tank, then it's almost it is empty. Although there might be a couple of litres still left in there.
Well, I mean, the other thing is that, I mean, people do use fuel at different rates, and so I think you know, that's something that we
different drivers, you mean? Different
drivers, yes.
Yeah.
And you know, you can sort of say, oh yes, we reckon the car will do it because Matey could do it, and then suddenly you get into it and find that it doesn't quite work as well. This gap for the lead has come right down, Johnny. I said it was 22 seconds on the previous lap. It's a lot less than that this time as they come through. Assuming that I'm getting my BMWs confused. Actually, I think I am, because that's the 100 now coming through. So it's the so it's another yellow BMW, which is just behind the Falcon BMW that leads the way. Still got a BMW 1, 2, 3, and the gap is still at around 20 seconds, I think. I think I misidentified a BMW coming through in 2nd place.
There are plenty to choose from in this race. Just being kicked up, though, by the Valkenhorst entered car there as it exited the Mercedes arena. Rear left just being dropped over the white line, and 2 wheels up over the curb there, coming out of the right-hander that slices the Grand Prix track in half, effectively. 2/3 from a third, perhaps. And now down the hill out of that long, easy chicane through the right-hand kink. Get a good view of this part of the track out of the back of the paddock, and then into the left and right at the Vidal chicane. So number 100 car looking rather lurid coming out of that sequence of left-right. It's the faster chicane, by the way, that we use over the VLN weekends rather than the tight and more technical chicane. It's a real hard stop, and then a 90-degree left and right, much easier chicane in this configuration. 911 is the 4th placed car, effectively trying to chase down the 100 BMW then.
Yeah, the 35 BMW up ahead of him there, isn't he? The dark blue Jordan Fresson. We think Henry Valkenhorst currently at the wheel of it, and just looking at the lap times, the screen showing me at the moment that the Fricadelli Porsche has got through. In fact, yes, we just saw it up ahead there. So the 911 actually back to 5th place, Johnny, because the 31 Fricadelli Porsche has gone through in 4th place. And problems, or is this a scheduled pit stop? No, it could be the scheduled pit stop for the number 55 Renault.
Okay, so next question is, how many laps has this car managed to do on the stint? It is in for a 2nd stop, as you say, and this is done.
6 laps on its stint. It did 6 plus the formation lap and 6 laps on this stint, so possibly a little early.
So 12 laps done for car 55, and this is the first to blink as far as the 2nd wave of pit stops are concerned. And the 170 has already made a stop. R170 being the Manthey Racing Cayman GT4 from SPX. That's the car that Manthey are good enough to put in SPX rather than race fellow Caymans and potentially beat their customers. So that car could easily be inserted into Cup 3, but Manthey decided not to do that and instead run it in SPX. As the 911 Porsche then is behind one of the many Toyota GT86s now, a little Honda Civic as well, which is again representing one of the touring car classes. Just the one Honda Civic in this race, the 511 V3 car of Frank Kuhlmann and Mark Giesbrecht. So it's a Type R CWE class V3, side by side as one of the Porsches, the newer shape Porsches. That's the car that led from pole position in Group 2, unless I'm very much mistaken. Putting a lap there on one of the slower Porsches without that monstrous rear wing. So that's a Cayman being overtaken. And just heading into the Mercedes arena. The race leader then on to lap 13. And well, some of the cars that are in the leading batch are on slightly different pit stop cycles, aren't they? Because the 3 and the 31 were the two cars that went deepest into their stint.
Exactly right, Johnny, yes, and the earliest one to stop on its previous time round was the 100 BMW, so the second place car, the most likely to stop this next time around, and then we'll expect to see the 55, the Renault. The Renault's already made its stop, hasn't it? So then we'll expect to see the 911 Manthey car. So, as you say, not only did the number 3 car go the furthest on its first tank of fuel, but it also got out and was able to lead the race. And that, in some ways, is a noteworthy performance because it made its stop later. Its pit stop will have necessarily been longer, so to be able to lead the race after a longer pit stop is a good performance, and continuing to stretch its lead as well. It's now up to 25 seconds from 22 seconds on the previous lap.
BMW leads BMW, leads BMW, so that's a bit of a statement as far as the M6 chassis is concerned. Fourth position is the number 31 Fricadelli Porsche 911 GT3R, leading from the 911 Manthey run Porsche. A few people said before the race that car might be a bit further up the order than it is, but for whatever reason, running in 5th place and can't seem to match these BMWs at this time. The Renault RS01 number 55 is in 6th place, ahead of one of only 2 Mercedes and the only SP9 Mercedes, the AMG, running in 7th place, car 44. BMW Z4 is a Valkenhorst motorsport car, slightly older shape Beamer, but doing well in 8th spot, ahead of the, for a lap, leader from SP7, number 62, the Gigaspeed Porsche, and then the number 1 Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car running in 10th place. 2 hours and 10 minutes to go then in the 48th edition of the Adenauer ADAC Rundstrecken-Trophy. 12 laps done, and well, we reached, I think it was 27 laps for VLN 3, and 28 laps would have been reachable at the start of the race. Obviously these caution periods, these little incidents will have just meant that the pace wasn't quite as good as we maybe expected, although whenever you're trying to judge a race distance, you do have to factor in some yellow as part of your average mapping of the race.
Yes, absolutely. That's part of the reason why fuel consumption is not always a straightforward thing to calculate as well, of course, because fuel consumption under yellow periods or yellow zones, as they are at the Nürburgring, or even purple zones, because there is the facility within VLN to have what they call purple zones. Those are where the 60 km/h speed limit comes into effect. Staying out for another lap, therefore 13 laps now completed then, is the race leading car, Steff Düsseldorp behind the wheel, and another lap 8 minutes 07.423. That's the is that a new fastest lap of the race? I believe it is, from Steph Dusseldorf on that last lap. Not as quick as he went in practice, but still very quick indeed from Steph. And then the second place car, number 100, did that come into the pits? Because coming across the line now is the 31, waiting still for number 100. Into the pits comes the 911, and somebody just ahead of him as well coming into the pits. I wonder if that's the BMW. So 911 into the pits, Johnny.
66 is one of the SP7 cars that's running in third position in the class, behind number 77 and behind the 62, which is still 9th overall. Car 35 has stayed out. That's the Jordan Tresson car that he shares with Henry Valkenhorst and David Schilwitz. And who else were we looking for? Possibly the 100 car. The 31 stayed out, but the 100, you think maybe...
I'm pretty sure the number 100 has come into the pits, yes. So okay. 35 and 31 have stayed out, but 911, Romain Dumas, did come into the pits.
Yes. That's for sure, because on the live feed, the 911 is one of the cars carrying a camera and some spectacular shots from, well, whether it's Romain Dumas or Richard Leeds at the wheel. Sometimes I just have to close my eyes thinking you're never going to get through that traffic between now and the next corner, but somehow both Romain and Richard manage it. That car is then in the pits with the centrally mounted fuel cap, so the nozzle inserted and fuel is going in, and the 100 BMW, you're quite right, is also in. So we're nearing half distance now, and this strange old scenario where the two cars that are certainly within chance of a podium, just sitting mere meters away from each other in splendid isolation, complete silence, whilst the crews check the cars over, and it's just a matter of waiting for the time to tick down. Don't want to obviously breach the minimum pit stop time, which is timed from pit in to pit out, so there's a bit of calculation required there as well to factor in how long it takes you to negotiate the pit lane itself, and you then have to subtract that from the total time, and that gives you your stationary time in effect.
Shot on the screen of the KTM Crossbow 924, which is the second place car in the Cup X class, behind the Stuck driven car, the 924 car in the hands of Johannes Jung.
Car 811 then just heading out onto the hats and back, 5th place in the TCR class. The overall lead in the hands then of car 3. The 911 is back out again after its second stop. Where's the 100 car in comparison to that? Can't tell you at the moment, but the BMW came in first, didn't it, with the 911 behind it on track, so we would expect the BMW to have been released and therefore still be ahead of it on track. We'll confirm that just as soon as we can. Meanwhile, 3 Porsches absolutely together. One of them is a Cayman, and that's about to be lapped by slightly more sporty SP7 car. That looks like the SP7 car that led the second batch away. So it crosses the line now. It won't be this, I don't think it's the 62 car. So
no, I think it's the 117 car, which is currently running in 11th place overall,
oh, right.
Johnny.
Okay.
So yes, very nicely up, although it's only second in the Cup Porsche Cup class to Christopher Meese at the wheel of the number 1 car, which is leading the class and has yet to make his second pit stop. They both have yet to make their second pit stop.
Getting SP2 and SP7 and Cup 2 cars mixed up there. Cup 2, I believe, have to be well, although GT the Americas allowed into that class. Cars, we've got glass. Can't see any non-Porsches in SP7 either, but there will be a subtle difference between SP7 and Cup 2. Meanwhile, 62 car, making sure that it's safe to hammer the right pedal coming out of the initial part of Axel back. And now this downhill, frightening section heading into a sort of natural area, natural amphitheatre where the spectator banking is significantly higher than the track, and that means that you can't find a bad position on that banking. Quite a large crowd accumulated there for VLN 4. You see the cars swing their way left and right through a really challenging section with the drivers, and now this section is keep the steering wheel straight, keep the loud pedal to the floor, and just a very slight kick as the track goes over the road. Double right-hander leading to Flugplatz, and a slight conflagration there between a BMW and a Porsche on the Grand Prix track, one of which is the 485 car, 485 being a V5 entered Porsche Cayman, I have it down as. No, 485, let's try, not 458. 485 is a Pixum Team Adrenaline Motorsport BMW 325i. That's what I was looking for. That being in the overall order, 129th and 15th in V4. I'm not sure whether that's as a result of its latest skirmish, or whether it just wasn't up in the V4 standings before that. So the 911 Porsche heading now down towards Breitscheid. Car 55, the Renault RS01, the G-Tronics car, just heading through the right-hander known to some as Niki Lauda corner. We had that awful accident many years ago. And now the climb up the hill towards Hoeracht, effectively, and Brunchen, but need to negotiate the carousel first.
Yes, these fast, again, series of fast corners where you can lose a lot of speed if you're not careful. And another BMW having a grassy moment off the track. That's the number 210 car, which is the...
It's Hoffa Racing, isn't it? Because it's a traditional white
colours. Yes, it's
red.
the Kroll family outing, isn't it? Michael Kroll, Chantal Kroll, Martin Kroll, and Roland Eggemann, the other driver that often runs with them. So one of the Krolls having the quite difficult to get all four drivers through the driving stint when you've got a BMW M3 which will go more than an hour on its tank full of fuel in a 4-hour race.
Quite a weekend for Team Kroll and Hoffa Racing last weekend at Imola, because they tried something different and ran their Mercedes AMG in A6 Pro, which meant that, of course, they weren't restricted to the Delta lap time, and it meant that Christian Frankenhout could go as fast as he liked, Kenneth Heyer could go as fast as he liked, and I think that the reason for doing that was because there were 8 A6 Pro cars then in that category, and a few more points on offer because the class was larger. Car scraping down the barrier is the Renault number 55, the RS01, with perhaps failure for front right. Maybe that's a tyre down or suspension problems, but this car has run as high as 2nd position previously in the race. And car 55, real drama here. I'm just trying to work out where on the circuit this is. Possibly still on the run down towards Breitscheid, although the track is now starting to climb. So we might have already been through that valley section and now heading up towards Carousel. Yeah,
no, I think it's even beyond the Carousel. I think it's as they come back on the way down through the Wittmann to Brunchen. I wasn't quite sure whether he was off the circuit because of an accident, but I think it's a mechanical issue, isn't it? And he's just, the reason why he was up against the barrier was just keep out of everybody's way. I think this is coming up to Hoeracht now.
It is a tyre down, and the noise you can hear in the background
tyre,
might be rubber clanging against bodywork. And now he's just stopped banging as the 55 backs well and truly off.
Yeah, I think he's going to call it a day.
This is Geracht, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, where there's a marshal's point. You can pull the car off the driver's left, and then I think the marshals will have a go at pulling the car back behind the Armco overlap.
I just wonder, Johnny, that car, I was a little bit concerned because it came in after just six laps of its previous stint. So I just wonder if it did have a mechanical problem, came into the pits, decided to go out again, and now whatever it was has got worse again. But that car, as you say, was running as high as second place before its first pit stop, but that car out of the race. The other car that we saw coming in for what looked like a routine pit stop just before we had the drama for the Renault was the number 31, the Fricadelli Porsche, which was running in second place, but having stopped on the same lap as the number 3 Falcon BMW on the previous cycle. The Falcon car has stayed out for another lap and is now on to its 15th lap, and still hasn't made its second pit stop. So the Falcon BMW, Steph Dusseldorf, proving not only very quick, he set the fastest lap of the race, but also very frugal as well. That car yet to make its second pit stop, whereas most of the cars around it have done.
Car 101 is part of the Cup 2 brigade, and it's a sister car, effectively a sister car to the number 62. Another Gigaspeed Team Get Speed performance car then. One in SP7, one in Cup 2, and they're doing pretty well. Actually, 62 leads its class. The 101 is third in Cup 2 behind number 1, which is leading that division, and the 117 car second in Cup 2. And driving the number 1 car, at least one of its drivers, is Alex Mees, who is Christopher's brother. We worked out, or we were told by a member of the collective last time around. So family Mees is clearly very talented when it comes to motorsport. And I don't think Chris is in this particular race, but Alex is, and leading the class in Cup 2. Can't tell you at this time whether it is Alexander at the wheel of the number 1 machine, but fending off car 117 so far. And we've had just about 2 hours of this race. In fact, we're over 2 hours,
we're 2 hours and 4 minutes.
Good job, you've got your clock going, because for the time being on the live stream, the clock has disappeared from the top right corner, but 2 hours and 4 minutes.
That's why we have a clock running.
I know. And I saw you start yours, so that's the reason why I didn't start mine. Although thousands would believe that excuse. Perhaps Paul doesn't. The 55 car is still off the track and awaiting recovery. I think it has been pulled back very slightly just to make its position slightly more safe. The Calibra going by at a reduced speed. A great mix of all sorts of different category of cars, including one of the Opel Astras as well.
But the fact that there is a green flag being waved just past the point of incident, a sure indication that there's yellow flags being shown before that. And yeah, the car now presumably is being towed backwards through the gate at Geracht, and so that looks like another retirement. Funny, these cars which race in 24-hour races, you kind of assume that 4 hours is going to pass without any problem at all for them, Johnny, but very often they do manage to have problems in a 4-hour race, just as they do in a 24-hour race.
Well, the problems in a 24-hour race, I suppose you never quite know where they're going to hit, and sometimes it can be in the first hour, sometimes it might be in hours 3 and 4, and then you won't be able to get through a 4-hour race, sadly. But the Renault issue hasn't become clear yet, whether that was contact with another car or whether it was purely mechanical and therefore happened on its own.
There was a suggestion on the ticker that it was a tyre problem or a puncture, but as I know how these tickers work, very often they're listening to us and they're just reporting what we've speculated. So it is only a suggestion that it was a tyre problem. But certainly that was the sound that we could hear, wasn't it, Johnny? As if tyre was rubbing against the inside of the wheel arch.
And it definitely disappeared as the pace lessened on the Renault, and it was pulled over and stopped by the marshal's post. But then that could be said the same about a mechanical issue as well. Porsche 911 now trying to get by BMW Z4 number 36 from the Valkenhorst Motorsport team. The BMW Z4 still a real great looking car, has a rather large rear end, as does the M6 actually, and it's therefore rather difficult to get by, particularly on this narrower section on the run down towards Breitscheid. Village appearing now.
This is a battle for position between these two. Richard Lietz will assume back at the wheel of the 911 car, having made his second stop. The 36 Valkenhorst BMW having not yet made his second stop. So it's a battle for position on the track. It will be Claudia Hurtgen behind the wheel, although I would have expected her to have taken the start. Alex Lambert and Peter Pozovac, the other drivers of that car, but as I say, Peter Pozovac, it is he managing to stay ahead, low on fuel, of the fully fueled 911 car. So those two cars in places 5 and 6 in the overall positions.
And utilising the outside lane, the fast lane, if you like, which is not necessarily the racing line, but the slower traffic, just holding station, being instructed to not jink out and do anything unexpected, just keep to your line and allow the faster cars to go through on the outside.
I'm guessing here that the number 100 Valkenhorst BMW, the road racing sponsored car, which we're being shown now, is ahead of that battle which is going on behind it. You remember the 100 BMW came into the pits on the same lap as the 911 Porsche, and still Richard Lietz struggling as they go through the carousel to get past the Z4. And this, of course, is going to be frustrating for Manthey, because, of course, whilst they are struggling to get past this Valkenhorst BMW, so the next BMW is the 35 car, which Gordon Tresson has been driving, and that's the M6 car from Valkenhorst. That is further up the road.
So they're heading now through Horacht and on towards Brunchen, so they've already gone by the Stricken 55 car, which I think now is in a safe location and will be returned to the paddock via well, the public roads, probably, with no chance of the Renault getting a good result anymore. So
no, if it is only a puncture, though, they might be able to at least resume the race. Pit stop for the race leader, the number 3 Steph Düsseldorf car, into the pits on this lap. So he has gone through, across the start-finish line, and into the pit lane. We're observing this battle on the screen as the 911 Richard Lietz still unable to get past Peter Pozovac, if it is he, at the wheel of the Z4. And the Z4 himself now being held up by a Porsche Cayman. The pair of them go through past the Porsche Cayman, coming into the Schwalbenschwanz now, and of course if he doesn't get through, if Richard Lietz isn't able to get through on this lap, I'm sure you actually better do him on the straight. But if it doesn't happen on the straight, then I'm pretty sure the Z4 will be down for the pits at the end of the lap that he is currently on.
There is another BMW Z4 in the race. It's from V5 and has a 3-litre engine. The Pixum Team Adrenaline BMW Z4. So without the giant rear wing on the car, like this Valkenhorst Motorsport machine does. And now the 911 Porsche is virtually beneath that rear wing. So the straight line speed possibly a little superior, but it's mainly that large hole that's being punched in the air by the BMW Z4 first of all, that Richard Lietz can take advantage of. Heading towards the kink then, partway down the Dottinger Höhe, and the Porsche is ahead finally of the BMW.